I came to Fort McMurray about 7 years ago. I actually started out working for a company in Fort McMurray. I traveled back and forth, and then I just decided to move up one day because I wanted to be in Fort McMurray and I didn't want to be traveling, and I thought, this is where I want to be. If I work in Fort McMurray, I might as well live in Fort McMurray. I love the small town feel. I'm from a small town, so what I really liked was everybody kind of knows each other and it's a very involved city. 5 fun things to do in Fort McMurray. Well, my favorite is to float down the river. My second is the cultural festivals that happen in town. There's Métis Days, there's First Nation, Indigenous Days. It's very driven around culture here in Fort McMurray, so there's always a lot of cultural festivals. Number 3 is Mac Island. We have such a great facility here in town. Then there's the oil sands discovery. You know, there's a lot of history, how Fort McMurray came about, how the oil sands came about, and a lot of important people who helped develop this region. And I have to say, my last is all of the events like Rib Fest, the concerts that happen here. It's a very involved little city that we have here. I'm the president and CEO of the Fort McKay Métis Group. The McKay Métis Group is owned by the Fort McKay Métis Nation. We have 6 companies in total. We have 5 partnerships and 1 self-performed business. Fort McKay Industrial Solutions, Métis North Sand and Gravel, McKay Métis Contracting, McKay Sterling Crane, Garda North, McKay Métis Energy Services. We are the largest asset owned by the Fort McKay Métis Nation. Our sole purpose is to provide tangible benefits back to the Fort McKay Métis Nation in business revenue. I think what sets us apart is our ability to diversify. A lot of our businesses were created under a partnership model, and what we've done is this year, we've actually acquired one of our partners because we wanted to grow that capacity. So having that diversity of partnership revenue as well as our self-performed businesses, also the ability to branch out into different portfolios, I guess what you would say, that wouldn't normally be considered Indigenous spend. That's what we've done. We've also diversified outside of the region. So not only are we providing services in the region and around the oil sands, but what we've had to do is look, how do we want to sustain the business long after the oil sands? And how do we want to make sure the community is taken care of long after the oil sands? That's exactly what we've done. We've branched out, and now we're providing contracts, some of them across Canada. I don't look like a typical CEO, but I'm okay with that. I pride myself in the ability to be able to include people. I don't have all the answers. I surround myself with a great team, and I think empowering people, listening to people, not always talking, listening is what I'm good at, and that's what I've done. I've created that successful team. I think we're in for another ride. I think it's going to be very different than it was before. I think people are going to have to be very strategic on what we're looking to do for business and how we want to do business. I think it's going to get very competitive in this region because there's a lot of great businesses. There's a lot of Indigenous businesses now that are out there doing things that larger contractors used to come in and do in this region. And now we're doing it ourselves. So I think it's going to get very competitive, and I think it's going to be very successful.